Keep 'em on. Good morning. It's Sweetie Berry with Between Us Girls and the Women of Dare Whimsy. Today is the first week of the summer. And for gifted and creatives, that can sometimes create as much stress as it does pleasure. Depending upon your personality, depending upon what's going on in your world, everything may have just changed in the last 2 to 3 weeks. It may be that your school is out for the summer, or it could be that the temperature and the weather has completely changed. It may be that the schedules of the things you participate with are suddenly all askew. Today we're going to talk about how do you deal with that time? How do you deal with those transitions and the periods of time that happen where everything changes kind of arbitrarily, and how do you find fun in that experience? This morning, I'm so pleased to have Gil Roddy with us. Dr. Martina McGowan and Gil Cook is here with us from California. So we're so glad to have everybody with us today. I know in the four of our lives, there are many changes happening this summer as we enter into this season. We have one of us who's going through a move right now. We have another who's starting a new job in a month or so. We have another who has a brand new play out. So we, too, are experiencing many changes with our times and our schedules and our priorities for this season, and I can't wait to hear how each of us are surfing that space. Good morning. Dr. Martina, I'm going to begin with you. Tell me how it is that you handle when things change.
Well, for me, when things change, what I have to put back into place is some kind of order, some kind of routine. It usually takes me a couple of days to sort that out, and I've gone through some of that this past year with my injury. Now that I've risen above the fog again, I need to put some order in place, or the days just kind of get away from me. Like the rest of you, I have lots of things that I enjoy doing, and most of which I'm beginning to be able to do again. But otherwise, the time just kind of compresses. It feels like feast or famine. There are too many ideas in too little time, or too much time and too few ideas. And so it's trying to find some boundary, some borders to put all that back together.
I love that answer. In my world right now, I'm helping with some projects in Arkansas, and I live in Alabama. I have a client in Nashville and in New York who are in big changes right now, and there's just not enough time for everything that's going on. And the truth is, I don't want to spend all my time doing the work that's going on. So I have to be really careful to say, where is home? And home is in my heart right now because I'm not at my physical home a lot with all the projects going on. And that routine is what really saves me. In my case, I really don't even have control of most of the hours of the day because projects mean that we're filming, or it means that we're interviewing, or we're settling in the state, or creating appointments that require me to be with other people on their time schedules, and I'm not setting that schedule. So sometimes the routine is simply having my own coffee cup with me and knowing I'm going to have coffee in the morning. And sometimes the schedule is making sure that 20 minutes I need before the day starts to be by myself, to be in devotion, to be in prayer, to be in time is going to happen regardless of where it is. One of the things that I have unlocked this year is the need to be in the place to do something. We don't have to be in a certain room in a certain chair to read our favorite book. We don't have to be at our desk to do a certain amount of writing. I have released that need to say that the area around me is required to do what I need to do, because so much of what I need to do is simply to have my pencil or paper or computer, my mind, wherever I am. And I'm learning to make it work in a backpack or in a bag so that when I'm on these projects, or if I'm working with the estate, or if I'm somewhere in a filming, I can be very contained with something I can grab with one hand and find peace and calm in the most needed things. What do you do, Gail, to support yourself? I know that you've got a calling all friendships to the well, and you just celebrated your mom's 90th birthday, and you saw up close and personal how many people handle the changes of life. Talk to us about what you're doing to make these seasonal and life changes go more smoothly for you.
Well, it was so fun. You mentioned my mother's 90th birthday party. It was so fun to see many 80 and 90-year-old people at that party and to witness how they move through life. Everything for them now is just kind of take it as it comes, and I don't have to stress about anything because I'm just enjoying this day. Tomorrow may not be here for me. And of course that's true for any of us. But to watch them was really enlightening this last weekend, to see that you can just flow a little bit more through life. Everything doesn't have to be strategized and planned, and it's so much more enjoyable. I think about what Martina said, is that for me it often seems there's either way too much time and not enough ideas, or so many ideas and not enough time. It is a tough balance. To answer your question, sweetie, I'm just still working on it myself, step by step. I just have to just try to flow with it as much as I can, because it is a balance that is just not easy to do.
Well, it is, and it has to do with where we are too. You know, right now I'm facing some things with my father's estate and with moves that are cross country and stuff, that there's just not a lot of things you can fix or have solution sets for. In fact, even the options for what solution sets aren't apparent until later. And one of my favorite things the last 6 weeks that I have really identified again in my life, is something we all know but we forget from time to time, is that there are all kinds of feelings that come up about everything. But I'm really putting feelings on the side. I have to feel them. You can't dodge feelings. But I'm not giving power to those feelings right now. I identify what's before me. I identify what the action needs to be, and then I congratulate myself on acting. And if I still have negative feelings or concerning feelings at 8 o'clock that night about it, then I'll stop and think about it a while. Because that thinking and overthinking and re-rehearsing and telling yourself what-if stories is just a waste of time. I was with my 81-year-old stepmother yesterday, and she just completed a move to a new town in a new city where she does not have family living. And she bought a place on the lake, and she's a very active person. And one of the things she continued to say is, the difference for me and some of my friends at 81 is I'm choosing to do pleasant things. My life is very limited in time, but I have an abundance of ability to enjoy pleasantness.
Great.
No, that's a wonderful place to be, and I am really adopting a lot of that in my life, because life was very unpleasant the last 90 days. I'm telling you, I kept thinking I had to finish this, and I had to finish that, and I had to accomplish this, that, and the other, and I kept putting self-pressure on myself. And in this season of summer, one of the things that I've done, just as much as I've deadheaded that garden, is to clip out that self-pressure and to say, okay, what's enough for today? Yesterday, there is no way I could have done all the tasks that have to do with an antebellum estate in Arkansas, but I had identified 3 things that would just be enough and give me great pleasure. And then afterwards, I celebrated, and my daughter celebrated, and we went to a wonderful restaurant, that one that you've been to, Gail, in downtown, and I remembered again how important summer fun is, how important laughter is, how important it is in the midst of the crisis or whatever's at hand. In this case, it wasn't crisis, it was just stress, things that needed to be done. You still have to take time to have pleasantness. And my daughter's need for white chocolate pudding just was pleasant to see her exonerate the day about getting out and enjoying it, and to go see friends and people that we've grown up with for decades. Sarah, I know that you have lots of tips and tricks on what you're doing to handle all the stress you've got going on with a move and end of the year direct sales and all the things that are happening. You've been doing some very active actions to make it a healthier place for you. Talk to us about what a difference that's made.
Yeah, we have been doing a lot of different things. One of the things that has really worked for me personally, but also for the family, is to say time's up. By a certain time at night, no more packing, no more calling, no more online, no more anything except for just to take time to unwind, because after months and months of not really sleeping, I have needed to have more sleep. And so I realized that if I start unwinding by 7:30 or 8, then I can probably get to bed by 9 or 9:30 without all the anxiety and the mind running. And so time's up has been a really good thing. Also making sure we have good food, spending the extra money if you need to have good food that's prepared rather than fast food, because it doesn't support you nutritionally. So we have made sure we have plenty of fruits and vegetables and good quality meat and cheese to keep the protein up and things like that. Also making sure I'm on schedule with vitamins, because those support me, vitamins and probiotics and really good nutrition. We found that comedy is really helpful. We've had a few YouTube channels that If we need a break, okay, flip on YouTube on either somebody's phone or, on the television or something, so that we can just get some humor. Because when there's a lot of changes, we've realized there comes a lot of stress and sometimes hurt feelings, and sometimes you say things you didn't mean to say. And, so really learning to apologize quickly, try to let go, and take some time away from each other if necessary. I've also taken, because the whole inside of our house is blown up right now, boxes everywhere, or, piles of, recycle and thrift store and garbage and all those things, and it's really stressful visually. And so I've taken a camp chair and I go out eat outside, or I read my scriptures outside, or I just get out of the house. Yesterday our neighbor said, John was playing basketball. It was his first day off crutches, and so he was out playing basketball because he just had to. And our neighbor said, why are you guys? I'm surprised you have time to play basketball and just hang out. And we all just kind of said, we're tired. We're done. And so it's important to have that time out too. And so just really creating space visually that supports you, or finding a space to visually support each of us, and taking time to support ourselves nutritionally, and then lots and lots of sticky pad lists. I have lists on the walls for other people, for helpers and people that I'm delegating to or that have been willing to help, and then lists for each member of the family, and really using my Stickies and Spirals notebook to the fullest.
That's part of it, and it's finding out what works for you. One of my favorite things that's happened in the last 6 weeks is I was given a prescription for community, and I had taken that prescription very seriously back in the fall when a physician handed it to me, and he said, you need community. Isolation is really deadly for you because you're a perfectionist, and part of that community experience is that you are allowed to see that other people are making mistakes, and sometimes more mistakes than you are, and you have this prescription for at least 2 hours a week. Well, I took him really seriously, and I created some communities, and I came together with some communities, but you know what? I learned a very valuable lesson during that 12 weeks. Sometimes you need to fire the community you're with. Sometimes the community you're with is so toxic, or it may not even be toxic. It may just be that they're in a different stage or a different place or with different goals. I had three different people that I just adore and I love, and that will never change. But they're in a different focus of their phase of life right now. And the things that they're going for would be toxic in my world because I'm not in that stage anymore. I'm not in that stage yet in some cases. It's not about being the same. It's about recognizing that that's friction, and it adds friction to your life if you continue to put yourself there, just the same as putting your hand on sandpaper and rubbing it every day would. And eventually we have to identify that if something's causing friction in your life, it may very well be within yourself and you're just, projecting on somebody else. But the same is true. If it's causing that to trigger, you need to leave the experience. After you've left the experience and you've either identified or healed, or maybe it's not even your issue, then you can choose to actively go back to that communication or that community or not. But so many times, why would you waste the time? Why would you waste the time trying to fix things that don't naturally evolve into a good place? Now, every relationship takes relationships. Okay, you got to have times that someone may get their feelings hurt or somebody may not. But if you're spending over about 10 or 20% of that time repairing relationship, barely, I think more than 5% of that time repairing relationship, maybe it's time you cancel the community and try a new bus. When I go to Franklin, Tennessee, every time I'm with that group of people I meet with there, it is 100% happiness. It doesn't matter if we're building Habitat for Humanity houses. It doesn't matter if we're working on a one-day website. It doesn't matter if we're working on a cancer victim's house. We are 100% in community and happy in that space every time for the last 5 years. And I have really listened to that prescription conversation because it's just like Sarah and I, or Martina and I, or Gail or I. Anytime I'm on the phone with them, we do life together. Sometimes it's hard life, sometimes we're going through triggering things that are tough for each of us, but in general, the four of us do life together. And almost every woman of Dear Whimsy is that way with at least some of this group. And so it becomes a place that's empowering, and it becomes a place that's enjoyable. But in the transition to summer, things change. Some of us are gone for summer. Miss Bobby is gone for a month. She's teaching at the college. You know, we have Ashley's teaching in the classes, and she's gone for the whole summer. And that's okay. But if you're being isolated, if you're left in a place where you're the person left, you still got to have community. So maybe this is the time that you find another stay-at-home, work-at-home mom. It may be a time where you work with someone who's doing corporate care like you are, and you can have lunch in the cafeteria. It may be a time where you put your book down during lunch and you step aside to a person that you just met at a networking group. But we need community. We need time to get out. And you know what? Sometimes there are all kinds of fun triggers that can help us get there. Sometimes it's choosing to do a dress-up day. For me personally, I'm going to lunch today. I'm going to go have a birthday lunch with a friend, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. So I got this morning, got dressed up, and I'm ready to run. That dressing up for me happens for sure, guaranteed, even if I've been swimming other days, one day a week, and I go to lunch with somebody, because that helps me have adult time. It helps me remember what adult time is. It helps me remember that I need to be more than just an entrepreneur, more than a strategist for a brand, more than working on, ghostwriting for somebody else. I need to be a human being. And that's not a networking lunch, by the way, ladies, because that's business. It needs to be something that's in your interest field. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you're a museum visitor. Maybe you're into exercise. Maybe you want to go meet someone and talk about a Pilates class. It's something other than work. Work's a good thing, but we need to step out that identity as the worker bee and become the person, the queen bee of our life. Gail, tell us about how you are queen bee of your life, because you have so many good self-care things. What do you do to help do that? I know last week you had out for a while. Of course, you had this wonderful party. What do you do to recover from such a week?
That's a good question, sweetie, because I have found, and it could be because I've mentioned before, the summer is so good for me, especially the early morning sunrise just energizes me. So I haven't had too much difficulty so far this summer with trying to make sure I have some self-care time. I walk a lot more living here in Minnesota. Of course, this is the season where we can really, really get out several times a day. But I thought about something you just said that really resonated with me. I met a woman the other day for lunch, and I knew when I met her, I could tell from her website, from her Facebook page, she was totally different than I am, totally different personality, involved in totally different things, but she was referred by a mutual friend, so we decided to get together. So long story short, after I left her, I was so glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone of people that I normally would interact with, and to step out and just see what this is about. And after I left her, there were so many kernels of realness between us, no matter how different our lives were. That was so exciting for me to step out and take that chance. You know, we gifted girls often do get isolated and think, no, I don't want to go there. That person might not be right for me. That place might not be right for me. But this is the season for me where I'm stepping out into places where normally I might be a little bit apprehensive of how it might go down. Boy, was I pleasantly surprised. And I think I'm going to do that a little more often.
Oh, I love that answer. You know, I told my daughter we hit a monumental space. We were coming down from Alabama and driving that 11 hours, and we stopped at this place and looked. When I go to like an antique store or a deal, I would walk in and just be so excited because there'd be so many wonderful things, and I would just be enlivened with the concept of it. And through this process of prescriptively choosing my life, prescriptively choosing the community and the environment I want to live in the last 3 months, what I walked in and thought, wow, that's a lot of stuff, and my house is so much more peaceful than that. You know, that is a part of summer too, and changing gears. It's figuring out what's peaceful for yourself. You know, it used to be that I loved to go put on a large event for a large crowd, have 3,000 people around me and 180 helpers, and life was good. That was like spinning plates. I loved it. But that's not peaceful to me now, because I want usually less than 150 people around me, because I want deep conversations and I want real learning to go on. And I want people to be able to do breakout groups where they actually get to hear each other and to talk. And so when I'm looking at meaningful, significant events for people, whether it's church or whether it's work or whether it's entrepreneurism, almost always I'll pick 75 people or less. So I have 3 groups or 4 groups of less people, because what I find at this stage in my life is I want community. And I want community in a way that there are all teachers in the space and they're all learners. So, lunches maybe only 2 or 3 people now instead of going and networking for business. I want to know the person behind the business. I want to know if there are those threads and those kernels of integrity together. Because, we're very different. I know Gail and Martina and Sarah and I are all very different, but we share common values. And we share common alignments with what we think is responsible as a heart or as an adult or as the person who is in relationship with other people. And as different as we 4 are, we have those same beliefs and those same integrity beliefs of how we should treat ourselves and each other. And that kind of environment is what's required for me personally to make transition. I find that transition is harder if I'm not seeking that first and that peace. Now, not everything's comfortable. Now, let's not confuse peace with comfort, because it's very uncomfortable to grow sometimes, and it's very uncomfortable to try new things. And even as much as Sarah's probably excited about her new house, it's probably uncomfortable to be leaving one that she's been in for 10 years or more. And so discomfort sometimes is part of the growing process. But there's a difference between discomfort and dis-ease. Discomfort means that we're doing something we're unsure of. Dis-ease is when we're willing to take on more punishment, more pain, instead of trying something new. And some of us have had some diseased living in change. One of my favorite stories is about a really grumpy teacher I taught with, and she was just, no matter what, she threw out a negativity, just no matter what. We had a wonderful day at school, but it was only one of a few a year. If we had an awards day, it was the only one this spring. It was just always negativity. And it didn't matter what she did. It was just that way. You just couldn't get past it. And so finally, the last day of school came, and as a gifted and talented coordinator, I said, "What are you excited about summer?" "We don't have any more school tomorrow. I can't do my routine." And I said, "What kind of routine are you talking about?" She said, "I get up at 5, I get my coffee, I take my bus on the route, I said, "Well, the bus isn't running, but have you considered driving the bus for the summer program? They're always needing them." And she almost hit me. She was that kind of girl. But it was very interesting later, several years later, 4 or 5 years later, she stood up and, as close to a compliment as you'd ever get, said, "That changed my world, because I needed to drive that bus all summer long and had never considered I could." Some of us need to get that same get on the bus mentality about our schedules. Maybe summer works for you because you walk more in the summer, Gail, in your area. So maybe we need to find your summer in the winter next year. We need to find it in an indoor setting. Maybe it is that we need to find what works. Maybe we can't afford to, or maybe we can't afford the time to go be with our friend for lunch, so we Skype instead and grab a sandwich at home. So many times I have children, or I have a friend right now who's going through chemo. She can't go out in the sun even right now because she says to stay in darker spaces because of the chemo. So we meet this way. We meet virtually. There's 100 possibilities of how to not be in isolation. One of the most poignant things I've read this year had to do with a soliloquy that went back to Robin Williams. And the end result was, they said that what failed Robin Williams was his imagination. He could no longer imagine himself out of the depression, out of the difficulty of the sickness he was facing, and he made a choice that was permanent to kill himself. I believe that there are more children who are gifted, adults who are gifted, who are facing depression, serious anxiety problems, isolation, than the average population. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I know that the suicide rate is much higher for bright women. In fact, the #1 suicide rate in the military right now are females, because we know and get involved in our feelings a lot with what's going on, and we are very self-attacking. We do a lot of self-pressure and self-punishment. And one of the things I want to be clear about as we change seasons is this is a season where you can find pleasantness. This is a season where you get to define what pleasantness is in your life. Some of us have forgotten that we are in charge of what we think. You know, I said this morning on a post, are you present in the presence? Is your presence personally in today's present? You know, I'm in a house that's from 1854. I live 100 years of history right now looking around this house. But the day that matters is this day. Not the days I grew up here, not the days I got married here, not the days that I visited my dying parents here, not the days I sat with parents while they died. What matters is this day. And am I fully present to it? Am I spending time with things in this house that have to do with my heart, my mind, and my today? And that's important wherever we are, whether we're at home in Alabama or Minnesota or Indiana or California. It becomes a question of, can you interrupt the processes that come at you to invoke the presence of pleasantness? I'm really grabbing onto that this week, and I'm going to grab onto that every day of June, because Virginia, my stepmother's words of you have the power to invoke pleasantness wherever you are is powerful. You know, it's just pleasant to hear the phone ring and to have any of you on it. It's just pleasant to look up from pictures around my desk of people I adore and care for. It is pleasant to turn off the phone if I need to do work. Guess what? There's a button called off. You can turn off the ringer, or you can turn the whole thing off. And guess what? The world does not end. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And if someone is on your last nerve, I can tell you, I'm married. I know this stuff. If somebody is on your last nerve, you can turn off a period of time where that's true. You know, there are times that my husband and I have the best and most romantic life there is. And there are times, many more times most of the time, where we're dealing life. And sometimes, just like we need to turn off our deadlines and our busyness, we need to turn off the presence of unpleasantness. Most of us will respond if someone's being pleasant to us. That doesn't mean we have to solve our marriage problems. That doesn't solve our financial problems. That doesn't solve our future problems. It means that we turn on pleasantness for an hour or two. I think Sarah did that just the other day. I got a message saying, I'm on a date with my man in the middle of the move. Because we have to learn to turn off the presence of problems and enter the realm of pleasantness. I challenge you guys. I really do. I challenge you this week, this day, this moment to identify pleasantness wherever it happens in your world, and to start thinking about it, because where you think about it, you will bring about it. You know, it was really pleasant for me yesterday to go pick flowers. I think some of you saw the fragrant flowers on Facebook and just saw the jasmine. There's probably a half mile of jasmine in this yard. It is an overwhelming, knock you down, beautiful aroma when you're outside. You know, I don't normally spend a lot of time outside smelling jasmine, but yesterday, because of the yard work and the things I was doing with the move and the things that were happening, I cut bouquets of jasmine and took it to people around me as I came by to help or whatever. That was very pleasant. It probably didn't take 17 minutes of the whole day. But that break in pleasantness danced me through the rest of 6 hours of labor, of things I was doing. Just the momentary of seeing. I had someone say on a post that their mother had gotten a jasmine every day on their anniversary for 40 years. And, you know, to think about that, and it kind of sparked in me, where could I take this that someone maybe not had been given flowers in 40 years? And I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of octogenarians. And so I grabbed some vases, some of the overabundance of what we have, and took it out to create pleasantness on the way by. You know, we need some fly-by pleasantness. We need unexpected hand notes. Gail is so good at writing a hand note and mailing it. Sarah is just the cheerleader from heaven about that. And Martina, oh my gosh, she just sends stuff. You know, it may be a book that I've wanted. It may be whatever. But these packages of pleasantness that show up. And sometimes that package is in an email. Sometimes it's on a text message at the right time, knowing somebody's thinking about you while you're going through something. These transitions into summer, these transitions into life stages, are made better when we're fully aware of what we need in community and we seek it for each other. today I just want to thank you all for being here. I would love to popcorn really quickly because our time's about up to talk about one thing that's pleasant that you can do today. Put you on the spot, so think real quick, what's one pleasant something you can do today? For me, I'm going to have lunch with a friend whose birthday's tomorrow. That's a pleasant thing I'm going to get to go do today. And, of course, I got to be here with you. Gail, it's going to be you up first.
Well, it's an absolute superb day today in Minnesota, 80 degrees. I'm going to go sit on a patio and have lunch by myself and read some passages from my favorite inspirational book.
Love that. Dr. Martina.
I actually have dinner planned with a friend. So I'll be going out to do something different one-on-one.
Love that. Getting out with a friend's always a good time. Miss Sarah.
I actually agreed to have a friend come help me pack. Usually I like doing a lot of that myself. I'm a little OCD in my packing, and so I agreed to have someone that I adore that makes me laugh like crazy come and help me do the last bit, hopefully, of packing so that we can start moving tomorrow.
Well, I am going to have this lunch and enjoy myself, and I'm going to really enjoy saying goodbye to this wonderful house again today as I have someone else coming into to take care of it for a while. And I'm looking forward to the practice of presence, of pleasantness for the rest of June. I hope that as we share the graphics and we share some things to put on your desk, that you'll remember the practice of pleasantness in your life and really take a time to use the sticky system that Sarah does and put a Post-it up there every time you do something pleasant. If nothing else, you'll have a visual reminder of how many blessings are in your life. And, you know, that's just a good thing. There's not a day in Dixie that it's not just a wonderful thing to look around your space, whether it's a handwritten note list, whether it's a Post-it note list, whether it's a chalkboard with some things on it, to remind yourself of all the many blessings that you have and what the blessings are that you are. You know, that's part of it, too. It's part of pleasantness is remembering that you, too, are worth loving, and you, too, are worth the pleasant things you give yourself. Look forward to seeing you next week. Sorry we missed last week. We're looking so forward to being with you, and I'll talk to you soon. This is Sweetie Berry with the Women of Dear Whimsy. Visit us at dearwhimsy.com, and on Thursdays you'll see our follow-up to this with our own personal suggestions and ideas of how to find pleasantness and how to make these transitions to summer in your life and transitions to seasons. Talk to you soon. Take care.